Hi guys, I'm Danielle of Denny Marie. Just Denny Marie, because this is not about beauty. This is real. This is about human rights, being a human, caring about other humans. If you don't know, George Floyd was a black man who lived in Minnesota and was murdered by members of the Minneapolis Police Department or former members of the Minneapolis Police Department. There's no questioning it. There's no questioning the fact that he was murdered. And the reason I'm making this video is the fact that I'm so disgusted and completely gutted. The coroner who did George Floyd's autopsy had the audacity to say that there's no evidence that George Floyd died due to the fact that there was a knee on his neck. He couldn't breathe. He literally said he couldn't breathe. He says, everything hurts. My neck hurts, my body hurts, everything hurts. And they continue to do so. There was no concern. There was no concern. There was no sense of urgency. Like, man, we are actually trained to de-escalate situations like this. We're actually trained in basic medical practices. We are trained in basic, we're humans. We don't need to be trained. We're humans. If someone says they can't breathe, you get off of them. You're taught that as a child when you're horse playing with your cousins in the backyard, and then all of a sudden you jump on top of Andrew, and then he's like, I can't breathe, and you're like, no, you're fine, and your mom yells at you to get off of them. Because when someone says they can't breathe, you get off of them. There's so much going on in my head as a black woman living in America. And this isn't just today. There's so much going on in my head all the time. There's so much going on in my head just to exist in this country. There's so much going on in my head. As soon as I wake up and I put my clothes on and get ready to go for my morning run, I have to think, okay, Danielle, what color are you gonna wear? How sunny is it outside? Because if you wear dark clothes and it's a little cloudy and you have your hood up or you are wearing your head wrap, they may think you're suspicious. Oh, it's clear? Okay, so I can wear my black tank top and my black pants and throw my black head wrap and my shoes and I'll be good. Hopefully. I'm making this video because I'm fucking outraged. And I'm not just outraged today, I'm outraged every day. Let's clarify. And I'm not an angry black woman, like I'm sure I'm gonna get comments about. I don't need to just forget about slavery and move on. Or racism doesn't exist. That was, back when our grandparents were alive. No, honey, that was back when your mama was alive. Let's be real here. Let's break this down here. People like to say, oh, racism doesn't exist, we're in 2020, or that was so long ago. Segregation is not that far away. It didn't just happen so long ago. It happened with your mom, it happened with your dad, it happened with your uncle, it happened with your aunt. It's one generation above us. They're still living and existing and thriving. They lived through segregation, so it wasn't that far away. When you look at your history books, when you think back to elementary school and your history books, think back to when they talked about civil rights. Think back to the fact that most of the pictures were in black and white. And it was like, oh, wow, these events happened so long in history and we've moved past them so far. Like, they were in black and white. They didn't even have colored film. It existed. Colored film, although more expensive, still existed during that time. But the reason they use black and white pictures in your history books is so that we're educated at a young age, that we're so post-civil rights. So you live in this bubble that we're so post-racism, and you have to question yourself, like, am I being too sensitive? Did that really not happen? She did move across the street, clench her purse, and, speed walk, but that could have totally not been, like, racially provoked. She could have just wanted to cross the street and then get back down and then cross the street back again. Maybe that was her thing. I'm so tired of having to fight every day to just exist because my happiness is a threat. My existence is a threat. The fact that I walk and breathe in white spaces is a threat. How? I don't know. And that's just not for me. That's for my mom. That's for my dad. That's for my brother, my sister, my nieces. my friends. This video and all of its smorgasbord of things is honestly to white people. Because frankly, people of color, we know the struggle. It exists for us. We endure it. I don't need to speak to other people of color for them to necessarily understand some spectrum, some range of what I'm emoting, my frustration, my tiredness. Even if it's not an exact replica of the experiences I've had, they can actually sympathize, not empathize to some degree. But frankly, white people, you cannot. And that's not your fault because you can help you were born white, but it's also recognizing that you have a privilege in being born white. Now, that's not to say you grew up in easy situations. That's not to say that you just grew up with money, you grew up with things handed to you. But through all the strife that you did grow up with, race was never an issue. Race was never a hurdle for you. And the thing is, it's not like, oh, it's just an extra hurdle, like, just extend your leg one extra time and you're fine. No. It's like, these are hurdles for life. Okay. Okay. Boom. You're hit with the wall of the fact that your existence is a threat, which I don't understand. What do we do next? What action are you going to take? Now, I'm not saying go to the front lines of a protest if that is not something you are comfortable with. I am saying find a way to be actively involved. Find a niche that you feel that you can fulfill to have your voice be heard. And this is more so for individuals that are white. Because frankly, I can be the most well-educated, eloquent individual that I am. But at the end of the day, your voice is going to be more impactful. You are going to be heard first. Like I said, this is not a fault of your own, but you need to recognize that power. Now, what are you going to do with it? Story shares, whatever, are great. But it's time for action. It's time to call out your aunts. It's time to call out your grandfather. Oh, it's not a matter of, oh, they grew up in a different time. No human is more than or less than the other. And for all of you who are going to take that and say, yeah, because all lives matter. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we already understand that white people's lives matter. Trust me. Y'all can protest everything. Your baseball team wins, protest. Your hockey team loses, protest. But that's just in all good fun, right? Just some rascals. Okay, so they're fine. But Colin Kaepernick taking a knee was not fine. Hands up, don't shoot was not fine. Having just a slogan of Black Lives Matter was not fine. And that goes to you, social media. You deleting the hashtags, you using an algorithm to silence amazing creatives, you wanting to say, well, what did they do? Well, they could have just, it's always a question when a Black person is killed. Well, what did they do? Well, they should have just complied. I'm confused. Where does it say that if someone doesn't comply, you kill them? When did they get that much power? I'm tired of white comfortability coming before Black lives. You should be outraged by the video of George Floyd, by those events. You should be outraged by Ahmaud. You should be outraged by Breonna. You should be outraged by all the other Black men and women who are murdered in this country because of a fucked up justice system. No, you know what? I take that back. They're murdered in this country from a justice system that was founded on the extinction of their existence. If you have a system that's founded on racist principles, don't you think you should overhaul the whole system? Not just bits and pieces of it, because obviously that's not working. But the fact of the matter is that it's very apparent that my life does not matter. That the people that look like me, their lives do not matter. I'm just so angry. I'm so angry. I'm hurt. I'm disgusted. But I'm not surprised. Because frankly, this is one that got on camera. Let's think about the hundreds of other Black men and women who have lost their lives to police officers using excessive force, police brutality. Let's talk about those individuals that weren't caught on camera, who don't have a video for, who we can't protect because they're God. It's so tiring to constantly Be hyper aware of your surroundings at all times. It's so frustrating to constantly have to worry about how your presence is affecting others in a space. It's more than being nervous walking to a room and you're like, oh, I don't know anyone here. It's a matter of like, it's an everyday thing. You're nervous every day. You're anxious a little bit every day. Sometimes it's a whisper and it's a hum, and you're just like, going through life. But other days it's a freaking air horn and it's a threat because you're seeing the glances, you're seeing the purse like, move a little bit closer, you're seeing the looks like, for what? What did I do that was so threatening to you? By waking up, by existing. If you watch this whole video and you got to the end like, damn, that's a lot. How can I help? If you want to be an ally, number one, address acts and instances of ignorance. And that also means checking yourself. That means checking your own biases. So check yourselves, check your friends. If you are out and you hear something, say something. Two, if you want to be an ally, educate yourself. And that could be reaching out to a person of color that you are comfortable with and asking them, hey, I want to understand, or I want to try and break down what it is that you are experiencing and how I can support you. That's what you do. Or even beyond that, because frankly, people of color are not your Rolodex of information on struggle. Educate yourself. Google. Open a book. Read the likes of Langston Hughes, W.E. Du Bois, Maya Angelou. Oh my gosh, I can put a list. Alice Walker, Angela Davis, Malcolm X. But educate yourself. You read the books. You reach out to a friend. You read the articles. Engage in conversations. And number three, if you have someone who you love, who's close to you, who's Black, check in on them. Ask what you can do to support them. Ask what they need. Four, take action in your own way. That doesn't mean go to the front line. That doesn't mean make a video like me. That doesn't mean do a blog post. That means doing what is in your capacity to do. And newsflash, it's an election year. Let's bear witness to that. It's an election year. Pay attention to our leaders and what they're saying during this period, because it's very critical to how we move forward. Pay attention.